I hope everyone is doing well today, and welcome back to another feature here at Inside Pack Sports. As always, make sure you subscribe to the channel at Inside Pack Sports here on YouTube. And today we're talking Will Wade, NC State men's basketball, his comments he made over the weekend at an NIL, one pack NIL function at Tobacco Road Sports Cafe in Raleigh, North Carolina. Inside Pack Sports, a sponsor of the One Pack NIL. We were actually in attendance. My guy Rob McLam recorded the speech, and we're going to discuss Wade's comments today. I have Jake McSwain with me, and Jake, I know we have the clip cut here, so we're going to play it here in a second from what Wade said. But I wanted to ask you: are you one when you know of coaches talking at functions like this? Are you one who believes they should be maybe not recorded? Look, we recorded it, right?
Yeah.
We recorded it. We have it posted for our members because we view it as if, obviously, if we're told we're not to not record it, we wouldn't. But we view it as like this is a way for all members to kind of hear, and they're eager for info at this point of the season, right? So there's multiple ways you can look at it. But are you one who thinks that these comments should maybe remain private?
No, I mean, if you're going to have an event like this, you have to expect that it's going to be recorded, especially when you're incorporating fans and it's going to get out. So I don't mind it. And I don't think it was, as sensational as maybe some people do, and we'll talk more about that, but hell, you should be excited. You landed a guy you feel really good about, like given it's UNC, maybe there's a little different context, but say what you want to say, especially if you're not calling people out by names or numbers, you know what I mean? Like you're fine.
I'm with you. So if you want to, you can go ahead and start up the clip, and we'll let folks listen to what Coach Wade actually said. This is from our stream that we have, and we'll discuss it.
Then somebody, the other school was too dumb to play him. When he plays 28 plus minutes, he's done that in 23 games. He averages 15 and 8. I don't know why the hell they didn't play him, but we're gonna play him, so he's gonna average 15 and 8.
So James, what are your thoughts? When you heard him say that, what were you thinking?
Well, I've spoken with Coach Wade several times. I was at his press conference. We've talking at various events since then. We've talking, to each other since then. So it didn't really surprise me at all when I heard the comments. I think he is very open with how he addresses his team, college basketball, other programs. I don't think he really tries to hide his opinion at all. So it didn't really catch me too off guard. Now, I did also, though, when it happened, think, okay, if somebody listens to this from North Carolina or around their program, I could see how they would take it a certain type of way. But I think it was more of kind of a one-liner, two-liner joke in a sense. I thought to kind of get NC State fans a little excited, right? Because you are talking about a guy who put up numbers when used in because we talked about Ven Allen Lubin. We talked about, well, look at his production when he hits a certain number of minutes. And for 3/4 of the season last year in North Carolina, they didn't really play him that much. And so I think his comments are warranted and fair, but I could also see how maybe North Carolina fans and maybe those around their program would take them a little differently.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this as I watched it back and as I saw kind of the words coming out of the event about it. If this was about Terrence Arsenault and, he had said something like, and when he got 10 shots a game last year, his average went up to this. Houston wasn't smart enough to do it, but we're definitely going to do it. Would we be having the same conversation? It might get mentioned, but I don't think people would take it as personally as they do if it's your crosstown rival. So to your point, I get it. And I think, you can be upset as a Carolina fan. Like, definitely I get it. It's a crosstown rival that's saying something about how you used a player. But at the end of the day, nothing he said was wrong. Like everything he said was factually right. Like that is just numbers and they don't lie. So I think it's a valid point and a valid concern to make.
Yeah. If you look at it from North Carolina's perspective and really NC State's as well, this is a unique situation because we haven't had a player in men's basketball go from one program to the other. in this sense.
Directly,
and
yeah.
So I think directly, right. So I think anything related to Ven Allen Lubin is going to be magnified. And kind of to your point, bringing up the Terrence Arsenault situation, we might have said, he said that about Houston. Okay. But that it'll probably been left at that. This thing is made, on three, various other social media platforms pointing it out. I actually have a couple of buddies of mine who were Carolina graduates reach out to me about it and kind of ask me what's up. I just say, hey, I was there. I didn't think it was anything, too out of the ordinary. It's just a way I kind of explained it to someone. I said, I think it's Coach Wade. And what's funny is when NC State was looking to choose their head coach, Jake, we talked a lot about Coach Wade and other candidates. And I told you I'd heard behind the scenes from folks that, and this is not folks close to NC State. This was outside former coaches, or not former coaches, coaches elsewhere, assistants, so maybe some on the recruiting level, on the high school level, who labeled Wade basically, if I want to pick a word for it, an asshole, right? In terms of his personality and how he talks. And it's weird because I took it to mean maybe this isn't a guy who would be appealing to the media or the fan base when you hear that. But actually, now that I've been around him and seen him engage with fans and obviously the press conference, and you hear him talk about his teams and all those different things. No, I think it's more other coaches might get pissed off or turned off by the way he is and how open he is and how brash he is. I mean, there's various interviews we've talked about before. There was one he did when he was at LSU where he just completely ripped into, I think it might have been Louisiana. And it was a situation going on between those two teams in terms of scheduling and some comments Louisiana had made about LSU and just obliterated them. And I think now that I look back on it, I say, okay, I think the asshole part might be from how other coaches perceive him. I think those around his program and his fan base, and maybe even the media members covering them, are going to love dealing with him from a day-to-day perspective.
Oh yeah. And you've seen it. You've seen it from how accessible he's been to not just the more intense circle of the close media, like, the IPS is the word, where like the events like this, he's been accessible, but also on a national perspective. Like he's been on a variety of national programs, whether they be podcasts or TV shows, and like people want him on, and that's really good. And for me, it all boils down to, there's a couple analogies I like to use. And one that's always stuck with me is when people say, if you're poor and you do weird stuff, you're crazy. But if you're rich and you do weird stuff, then you're eccentric. Right. And so with coaches, it's like, if you make comments like this and you're successful, like you're competitive, you're fierce, like whatever, like smart, you know what I mean? Whatever adjectives get thrown around. But if you're a coach like this and you're not successful, then you're an asshole. And that's what it comes down to. You know what I mean? So if he does his job, does it well, like, and this stuff like this is fun, right? But if it goes south, it's not as fun. You know what I mean?
100%. I think it only speaks even more to the type of coach I think you need to have in this era, right? Like these comments were made at what was essentially a fundraising event. And you need a coach who can connect with his fan base and, let's be honest, is a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Right. Even more. You need a coach like that. I've been talking to some guys close to our website, just other writers for us, and we've discussed, my partner Bryant, we've had discussions about this before in the past, where if NC State were ever to, now they've made a change on the men's basketball side, if they ever made a change, or Coach Dorn chose to retire or move on or whatever, from a football perspective, what type of coach should you go after? And I told Bryant, I said, I don't even know anymore how much the coaching element of it matters. Like, obviously it matters, right? But you've got your staff in place, you've got those guys, but you need someone now that's going to be a connector with the fan base, a fundraiser, NIL, help generate funds and help you build this roster out. That's going to be appealing to, I think it's going to have the upside that an AD is going to believe in, to where they say, okay, if I want to commit some amount of my, or this certain percentage of my rev share to this sport, I believe that guy is going to maximize it and win. And so the coaching element of it, yes, it's always going to matter. But you now need a guy who's going to connect with the fan base and really go out and raise money, maybe more than ever.
Oh, absolutely. Because you look at it, what's the criterion for winning? The talent that's on your roster gives you the chance to win, right? Like no amount of X's and O's in coaching is going to win you games with substantially inferior talent. Like maybe one-offs you will, but you need to have the guys, and it's the Johnnies and Joes, not the X's and O's. Like another classic analogy for it. It's never been more true than it is today. Like your ability to bring in top talent is going to dictate your ability to compete at the level you want to. Now I'm curious, James, kind of shifting subjects a little bit here. I feel like maybe the main takeaway from this quote is getting lost. The UNC comment notwithstanding, him saying that, basically publicly committing that he wants to play Ven Allen Lubin 25 minutes a game. And we've talked about it with Mbaya and his role and some of the other, how they're going to manage that rotation. And maybe it's just a comment at an event, but it seems like, even more so than we thought, which we were pretty sure on to begin with, that Ven Allen Lubin's role early season and at least to start is going to be very substantial.
Yeah, I want you to link the full interview in the description for those who haven't had a chance to watch the full interview, because to your point, I think Coach Wade is extremely calculated in what he says. And he's using a lot of numbers that you're frankly surprised the coach can throw out like that at a function like this on various players, because he talked in depth about pretty much everybody on the roster. But to what you're saying,
from a stairwell with no notes or prompter in front of him.
No notes. He didn't have his he didn't have his sheet in front of him with his reading glasses on. He was just going. And I think for him, look, if you go through this season and you're playing Ven Allen Lubin 12, 13 minutes a game, do you think he's going to be reminded of that?
Yeah. These videos don't go away.
Right. And so, especially if you're not winning, because trust me, if I were a UNC fan, hell, if I were even a State fan, you may come out and say, hey, you were telling us this Ven Allen Lubin guy was going to play 28 minutes a night for you. What happened? So I 100% agree with you. For an NC State fan, who cares about the Carolina perspective of it? Obviously, we're going to discuss it. The big takeaway, though, is what he said about how open he was to how many minutes he believes Ven Allen Lubin is going to get. Because you're not going to make those comments if you don't expect for him to have a massive role. And I do think they project Ven Allen Lubin to play 25 to 30 minutes a night. Now, we'll see what that means for who else is on the roster at the 5 position. That discussion may be for another day. And frankly, Jake, we're tired of having that discussion, right? We're tired of having that discussion. So we're not going to have it until we absolutely need to. But I agree with you. That is the takeaway to have from this. It's more so, forget the North Carolina side. It's more so Ven Allen Lubin is in line to have a massive role for NC State this year. And anytime he's had a massive role, wherever he's been, whether that's Notre Dame, Vanderbilt, and North Carolina, he's produced at a high level. And I think State said, you know what? We're going to follow the numbers. The numbers say when he plays 25, 28, well, I think the number he used was 28 minutes a night. When he played 28 minutes a night, he gave you 15 and 8 over his career. Well, I'll take 15 and 8 from a center.
Yeah. That's a no-brainer. If you can get that production or even close to that production, you're in fantastic shape. And that way it's on his radar, and that's really positive news. James, before we close out on this, any other thoughts from the event outside of the Carolina comment?
Yeah, it was really cool. I think, we were there and we had a chance to meet a lot of IPS members there. And so for those of you on the YouTube channel, if you're not familiar with Inside Pack Sports, go check it out at InsidePackSports.com. We have a ton of content over there. But we were able to meet a lot of members, interact with them, talk to them. We met some of the players. I was able to get a couple of interviews with some of the guys, Darian Williams, Terrence Arsenault, we're going to have here on the website also over the next couple of days. So make sure you check that out. But a lot of confidence is what my takeaway was. The players seemed extremely confident on the upcoming year. But the other thing, man, was this is a team. that is totally new. You know, the only two players you had there from last season for NC State were Paul McNeil and Jordan Snell. That was it. And so for that team to have what seemed to be real chemistry already, and we're talking a couple weeks on campus, it wasn't an awkward deal where, you know, guys didn't seem like they wanted to talk to each other. Jake, you coach men's basketball on the high school level. My son's playing it right now. He had his first event this past weekend with his high school team, and I could even sense that tense, like, I don't really know this guy yet type deal.
Oh, yeah.
There wasn't any of that. They were joking with each other, huddled up, taking photos, posing, picking on each other. You saw a real chemistry there already being developed. And I think that's the big thing, because in this era with so many new guys, it starts with chemistry.
Absolutely. And the fact that seems to be getting established early, specifically when you have so many new faces in a room, like that's good. And I think just the more time they get in the gym together, the better. I'll say too, for like those folks that haven't been to IPS, like you mentioned, definitely, like, if you're involved or want to get involved with Wolfpack, like that's a good spot to start too. We have a lot of involvement from folks that head things up for them, and we have had some cool giveaways. We had some subscribers that had last minute tickets that they were willing to give away to the first folks that subscribed, and that was, you know, just on our boards. And so alongside the premium content, it's just a great way to stay involved with everything that the collective's doing as well.
100%. Great event. They're doing everything they can over there to help NC State student athletes. You know, with us at IPS and Elite Plus, our NIL platform, we're big on that. So, yeah, it was another great event. And like Jake said, I know you guys came for the comments on North Carolina. We discussed it, but I want folks to remember there's a little more in there as well. Take away from it, Ven Allen Lubin is going to play a big-time role for NC State this year. So we hope you all enjoyed this video feature, and check back again with us for another one here soon.